Not our first rodeo, good captain. Not our first rodeo at all. This up and running, make sure it's doing all the things it's supposed to be doing. A minute out from kickoff. When the game looks like it's starting, I'm pretty confident that everything's up. We have our Facebooky people there. Want to know the smile? Hello, hello.
What are you doing?
How you doing?
We need some cars moved.
Am I in your road?
Yeah.
Oh, do that.
Sorry.
You better do an intro and I better move.
G'day everyone. We've just had a little bit of a traffic issue. But anyway, welcome. Thursday night, 21st of August. It's all happening. I'm just fresh back from a council meeting of Temora Shire Council. My name's Anthony Irvine. I'm a councillor on Temora Shire Council. The views I express here are mine and mine alone, and not those of Temora Shire Council. And my friend Dean McRae has just had to go and move a car for my wife, but he won't be long. And tonight we're hoping to have our good friend Mr. Andrew Thaler join us from Snowy Monero Regional Council. He's a suspended councillor at the moment, but duly elected and otherwise serving the community, just being not allowed by the Office of Local Government at the moment. Interesting stuff. It was interesting to note, and I'll wait for Mr. Thaler to discuss this. He won't be too far away. Yeah, interesting stuff going on. Interesting council meeting tonight. I'm off to NCAT tomorrow in Sydney for a hearing into a GIPA matter regarding the deed of separation for our former General Manager at Temora Shire Council, Mr. Gary Lavelle. So far, about 90% of that deed of separation has been released to the public through the GIPA process. And there's only a minor amount of material left to be contested tomorrow. So realistically, it's we're just down to the last stages of it. I'm not sure who's going to be there on behalf of council, if anyone. I'll certainly be there representing myself, and I imagine the representatives from Lindsay Thaler Lawyers will be there on council's behalf, and I don't know whether anyone from council is going to be flying up in the morning to attend. Anyway, that's up to them. Whether they've been told that there's no point, I don't know. So that's where we're at. It's been a really interesting few days. And Mr. McRae's back in the building.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. That was all right.
No, it was
Welcome aboard.
I've forewarned everyone that our good friend Mr. Thaler is going to be joining us tonight. I've also just touched on what I'm doing tomorrow in terms of getting up about 4:30 to drive to Sydney to be at NCAT for a 10 a.m. hearing into the last 5 to 10% of our deed of separation. I think the deed
Serious
of
business, very serious business.
Well, it is. When you consider that initially they told me I couldn't have any of it, and I'm currently sitting there with about 90% released, and that's 90% that's released. That's released at large. That's released to everyone in the universe.
In the whole universe, the whole wide world.
Yeah, that includes the Milky Way and beyond.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, first things first, have you got a introduction you need to do?
Well, I've done it.
You've done your disclaimer.
Yes.
Fantastic. I don't actually have to do a disclaimer. I usually just do it so he doesn't feel lonely while he's sitting there and I'm doing bullshit disclaimers. But thank you everybody for tuning in. Last week's program is up over 2,000 views, which is always good. I think we made a little bit of an impact.
Yeah, that was good.
I think a few cages have been appropriately rattled. I won't be making any apologies for anybody who's nervous about things that may or may not have gone on. And my position on that little rant that I had in the middle of the show, I'm just going to get that out of the way right now, stands. Anyone targeting one child in particular, but kids in general, I'm happy to put the target on my back. So bring it. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you our illustrious guest for the evening, Councillor, Snowy Mountains Councillor, candidate for Kiama, Andrew Thaler. Welcome aboard, sir.
Yeah, I'm actually a woman. I'm multitasking.
I was a little bit suspicious. I just didn't want to bring that up in case I, offended you and your sensibility.
You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. I can be anything at any time, in any instant, for any reason, anywhere. Anyway, how are you, fellas? Thanks for inviting me along.
No. Thanks for coming on.
Always a pleasure. You've had a massive week. Now, for those of you in the audience who do not know who Andrew Thaler is, one, he's a good-looking chap behind us on the internet here. Good-looking chap on here.
Yeah, looks better with a
He's
hat.
been called many things, and he has joined us before in discussions. What did I meet you 2, 3, 4 years ago now, Andrew?
2020, by 2018, maybe by-election for Eden Monero after Mike Kelly resigned.
So yeah, I've sort of known Andrew for quite a period of time. It seems to be a situation whereby you've gotten more and more famous. You've made some friends, you've made some enemies, you've made some headlines, and the whole way through, what I can say from what I've seen, even on the little bits that I've noticed, you've always stuck to your guns, called out what you think is right, and on occasion you've offended a few people because they feel like they don't like you very much. Am I wrong?
Well, I've mostly offended lefties, and that's always fun. They're the easiest to offend. It's not really a great prize, but I'll join in, Anthony, and give a disclaimer. These are my personal views. These are not the views in my role as a councillor of Snowy Monero, where I am presently suspended, but still subject to the Snowy Monero Regional Council Code of Conduct.
Gosh, that sounds serious.
Yeah, that's interesting. Would you believe I was just at a Temora Shire council meeting tonight, and I'm just looking through the mayoral report, and the mayor keeps a pretty extensive diary. And on the 31st of July, it appears the mayor must have been in Sydney for the morning or somewhere thereabouts, because on the 31st of July, he goes on to say the Country Mayors Association delegation held a meeting with the Federal Shadow Minister for Local Government, Dr. Anne Webster MP. And then he goes on to say, I had a meeting with the Deputy Secretary of the Office of Local Government, Mr. Brett Whitworth.
That's that guy.
Yes. Then he goes on to say, I attended council offices. So then he goes on to say, I had a series of interviews with various media outlets. So that's all on the 31st of July. So they tend to indicate that it's somewhere in between there. He transferred himself from Sydney/Nowra to Temora if he was to attend the council offices.
Magic.
Still
Come on,
within some interviews.
mayors are magic.
Anyway, that's interesting to think that you might be aware, well, I'm sure you're aware that there's a lot of ongoing issues between the Office of Local Government, Temora Shire Council, and myself.
Who? There is no Office of
Office
Local
of
Government, Anthony. You're completely wrong. There is no Office of Local Government.
Well, there's a group of people purporting to represent an entity known as, otherwise, AKA, the Office of Local Government.
An entity formally known as, on the 2nd of April 2019, Governor of New South Wales, David Hurley, abolished the Office of Local Government. Full stop, end of argument, and I cannot find any evidence of it being resurrected ever since.
Yes, and I think you gave some other people the opportunity to present some evidence and they declined the offer.
They said it was actually the barrister for the Office of Local Government, and they said they hadn't thought of it and they had no reply. That was in court last week.
I wonder, they just wanted someone to meet their expense. Who were they going to invoice if they didn't invoice the office?
Well, you'd want to get paid in advance on that basis. But
yes.
Look, yeah.
So, look, that's interesting anyway. So that's how connected our mayor is. So I don't know how I can request the minutes of that meeting or if there's any notes to be had. I suppose I could request them as it's government business. I think I could request any notes from that meeting under the Freedom of Information Act.
Well, he's not the bloody cabinet, so there's no cabinet protections.
No, certainly not. No. There's a mayor and a mayor of the council I'm a part of, and the Deputy Secretary of the Office of Local Government is a public servant. So I think any of the discussions in that meeting should be the notes from any of that should be accessible via the Freedom of Information Act?
I almost bet you $1 there are no notes. See,
Hmm.
I'll give you a little story. Our council has made some pretty terrible decisions, approved some illegal development consents. They were taken to court and sued by a resident, and the council said that they got legal advice, and that was why they decided to approve the development. And as councillors, we passed a motion to get a copy of that legal advice, and they then said, well, we can't give it to you, councillors. It was verbal. And that was a really great line from Councillor Reuben Rose saying, well, verbal legal advice isn't worth the paper it's written on.
Yes, because it's not written on any paper.
And they've done that again. They did that a couple of weeks ago over another contentious DA where there's a whole lot of dodgy asbestos. That's part of the reason why I got the first suspension, telling the truth about the asbestos. The council got legal advice. Again, councillors asked for it. Oh, it was a verbal advice, councillors. I can't give that to you.
How can it be considered legal advice if no one will put their name to it, no one will sign the legal advice, no one will take responsibility for it, and it can't be interrogated?
Well, in the first matter, my mate who actually ran the case, he clocked up about $72,000 in legal expenses with an expert barrister and lawyers in the Land and Environment Court over a period of time. The council incurred about $65,000. So if there is legal advice, and from memory, I think it's from Lindsay Thaler Lawyers, or you might know them, they've got an indemnity. So they could pay, because if they've given erroneous legal advice, then their indemnity would cover them and it wouldn't cost the ratepayers or our shire. But it's verbal advice. There's no evidence. Lindsay Taylor, whoever else, they get away with it.
Yes, but if you think you're going to charge someone 65 grand, surely they'd want something written down.
I would. I mean, I've got tons of legal advice that I've been paying for, and it's pretty much all written down, and then it's turned into a document and it's submitted to the court through the registry, and I stand accountable to it.
Yeah, even speaking of Lindsay Taylor Lawyers, I'm going to NCAT tomorrow for a matter in John Madison Tower there in Sydney, and Lindsay Taylor Lawyers are going to be there for the respondent, Temora Shire Council. But they've put a submission in and they've signed the submission. There's paperwork associated with their legal advice. You can actually see some work being done, which would accompany their invoice and substantiate some of their claims for payment.
Yeah, that's right. And that's how we expect it. It's nothing new.
No.
It's not unreasonable.
No.
But it seems to be awfully convenient at times. I mean, I've got a bunch of funny stories. I don't want to steal your thunder, Anthony, but our council had a meeting today too. I watched it through my, I've got a new term I'm going to use now. It's called a magic screen. I watched it through my magic screen, and I was outraged that my magic screen is still intact, but I was outraged by what I had to witness today. It's disgusting. It's unprofessional. It's immature. And I will say it is evidence of the corruption of our council. But yeah, you've got to get up at 4 o'clock. I wouldn't get up at 4:30, mate. I'd hit the road at 4 because I guarantee you're going to get traffic coming into Sydney tomorrow morning. It's raining.
Yeah, you're probably right. It was pretty hilarious at our council tonight. I put 2 notices of motion forward. The first notice of motion was regarding what progress. It was pretty much asking the general manager to provide a report as to what their plans were regarding complying with the minister's wishes to webcast our meetings, what the initial budget was going to be, what their process was going to be, and what the ongoing budget might have been. Now, would you believe, when I put the notice of motion in, the general manager gave me some advice how to word the notice of motion, and the general manager requested that I couldn't direct officers, so it had to be directed to the general manager. So I took that wording on board, and the general manager accepted the notice of motion. Now, that was on Wednesday last week. So that's 8 days ago. So when this notice of motion got put forward tonight, believe it or not, I did get a seconder, although it was very lengthy in the fact of someone coming forward to second it so we could actually have the debate. Then we had the debate, and it turns out that the general manager is well progressed in doing exactly what I was asking for. But somehow that hadn't been communicated to the councillors. So when my notice of motion actually came to be voted upon, I was the only one who voted in the affirmative, and there were 8 councillors who voted against it. But I suppose you have to put it down as a win for myself and the people of Temora on the basis that what I was asking for is actually happening. But I don't know why the other councillors would vote against that.
So they voted against live streaming the meetings.
No, they voted against my request for the council to provide a report relative to it. So I don't know what happens when the general manager is ready to deliver the report. Does the general manager just read the report? If the general manager has to comply with the resolutions of council, then realistically we're in a situation where the general manager won't be able to deliver the report. Because
maybe
the councillors have voted against my notice of motion asking for a report.
Maybe they don't want to admit how much it's going to cost because they've chosen the government or the OLG, who doesn't exist, approved version. So, for example, you and Dean are using StreamYard tonight. Our council spends an enormous amount of money on their live streaming software, and it's actually fairly crap. And
Yes.
When you want to watch the replay, I mean, you don't even have video broadcasts. At least we do, but we only get the sort of speaker view, and there's no reason why you can't have the underlying audio tracks from all of the microphones, because in speaker view it jumps around, and if somebody is muttering or talking amongst themselves while someone else is speaking, the program struggles to pick the correct microphone to source the audio from, and so the audio quality can be quite awful. And it's amazing that it's maybe a feature of the program, but if a male councillor calls a female councillor, as happened in our previous council, if he calls her a bitch, the live stream magically doesn't record that bit. So be careful what you wish for.
Look, I'd hate to think that there was some sort of AI underlying editing that might go on that could be directed to have a predetermined happy ending for certain parties. But it sounds like a Monty Python sketch when you've got a situation that I've asked for a report from the general manager, right? The general manager has said that report is coming forthwith.
Yeah.
The notice of motion asked for this report to be presented to council, yet 8 councillors vote against that. So that gets voted down. So therefore, it almost puts an impediment in front of the general manager delivering that report.
Well, your seconder voted it down as well. I mean, I understand seconding a motion for the purposes of debate, but they then voted it down. So either
It's okay. I was happy to get a seconder, and I think it was maybe pre-arranged. But anyway, that was interesting. Now, the second notice of motion was really quite interesting as well. The second notice of motion, we've had a situation in town where they've changed the regularity or the frequency of issuing parking infringements. And there's been a few people saying, come on, you don't touch us for 12 months, all of a sudden you're flogging us. And I said, yeah, fair call, it wouldn't be hard for council to say, look, we're going to really try and tighten up on the parking in the CBD over the next 3 months. So look, please try and comply with the authorised parking arrangements. I think that'd be only fair. No one enjoys getting a parking fine. And realistically, this big stick approach is only really to get compliance. Now, if you can get compliance without having to issue fines and getting people offside, I think that's far preferable. Unless, of course, you're trying to raise revenue. Anyway, same thing again. This week, council used their social media channels to inform the public of parking options around the CBD, and actually this became an issue in their social media stream. Yet tonight, the matter got raised. I had the opportunity to talk about it. There was a couple of comments made that were quite disturbing, and the audio from the meeting, when it becomes available, we'll play that and people will get a chuckle out of it. But the same thing, 8 councillors voted against the idea of communicating our intentions to the community and eliminating some of the angst. So I don't know whether they enjoy
Well, the problem is, as you said earlier, does the general manager now direct the communication staff to stop communicating the change in circumstances?
Yeah.
It takes
And
me
if
back to the
they're gonna kind of-
conversation.
yes, that's
Sorry,
exactly right. Yeah.
I got Richard Foley commenting in the background, and it takes me back to a conversation I had with Richard, where the Office of State Revenue was trying to push their automatic parking fine system with unmarked cars driving around with digital cameras and AI, patrolling the streets with subcontractors like Redflex and the cameras on the sides of the highway to issue parking fines. And you could just get smashed every single day if you didn't know about a change in circumstance. And I know that we were analysing the law that might allow that to happen, because Revenue New South Wales was offering to do it on a commission basis, which of course we know the contractors underneath work for a percentage share. And Richard and I didn't think that was competent with the Fines Act and the fact that a fine must be remitted to Treasury and they were going to pay it directly to the councils. And it's a mess. At least you haven't got that system being forced on you. But I do agree that councils have an obligation to their community to inform them. So what you did was right, and they probably don't want to admit it, Anthony.
I don't know. I just feel like I'm on the out of there sometimes.
Only sometimes.
8-1, 2 votes that went 8-1 against, but in both instances, what I was asking for are actually happening anyway.
Yeah, but I've had that in Snow.
I don't know whether that reflects badly on me, because even when I lose the notices of motion, what I'm asking for is being done. So I think it probably reflects worse on the other 8 councillors.
Well, you haven't
Depends
lost.
who's watching.
Yes.
Yeah, you haven't lost.
No, that's what I mean.
Our council was asking me, I had a lot of motions, and they said, why do you do all these motions when we keep voting them down? I said, well, I don't put the motions up for you to approve them. I put them up to debate them on behalf of the community. I don't care whether you vote them through or you vote them down. What I care about is that it gets discussed and put on the record. They hadn't thought of it through that lens.
Absolutely. And when we get the live webcasting of our meetings, the public are going to be able to sit back and they're going to be able to witness this debate, and they're actually going to be able to make a hard decision as to who is actually fairly representing their interests and who is taking the piss.
Correct.
And that's the important part, because a lot of these decisions get presented to the community as this big consensus arrangement from this group of councillors, when nothing could be further from the truth. And a lot of really sensible points have been swept aside and dispatched with. So I think the community are really going to benefit when these debates are live streamed, and they can actually see some of the debating style of some of the members of the chamber and some of the arguments that they put forward, and just see how strong or otherwise some of these arguments might be, and how much interest they've actually got in the people that they're purported to represent.
Absolutely. So, we've had the same debate. There's certain relevant councillors in our council that always trot out the same old line. Oh, well, I've spoken to people in the community and they've told me blah, blah, blah. And we've actually asked them many times, who are these people? Where are these people? Talking to other councillors does not count as talking to other people in the community.
No.
Look, I find it quite interesting. Look, there's a big part of me that's really glad that I didn't get elected, and then there's another little part that thinks it would have been frigging funny had I.
Not even funny. But, look, what we need is more people in there representing the people.
I get it.
And less people representing themselves.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm kind of glad, because I could see the anguish you blokes put up with in those rooms, and there's not a chance in hell I'm going to put up with that shit. But the fact that they're so hesitant to be live streaming these things, everything I do, everything you do, Andrew, you are an open book. There's nothing to hide. What are you hiding? Why are these councils, on yours, on 3/4 of the other councils around the country, all so desperate and determined to be hiding what they're up to and what their intentions are? It's pretty straightforward. You're elected to represent the people who elected you, not run some secret squirrel fucking club that, makes all these decisions on our behalf. You're there as a representative of the people who vote you in. That's why when you asked about that Lavelle's contract and you weren't satisfied with the results you got, I was more than happy to say, well, hang on a minute. Oh, now I want to know. I want to know now because the guy I voted for in that room has serious concerns about a document and the way it was hidden, or the way it was threatened to be hidden if you didn't do the right thing. The fact that we've got so many of these clowns in elected positions who are so determined to be secretive and avoid scrutiny under any circumstance is the reason we do this program. It's the whole reason. The fact that they're terrified of you, Andrew, I know you make them bloody nervous. You give these people bloody coronaries and they deserve to have every bit that they get, is really a sad indictment, not only on these institutions, and we all know I'm not really an institutional guy, but it's an even bigger indictment on those individuals that are holding these secret squirrel business meetings and trying to keep it from the public. It's a really disgusting setup as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I've got two little stories for you. If you remember when I got elected, the council, before I was even, I was declared elected at 9:30 a.m. on the 1st of October. And by midday, I got some weird emails from the Sydney Morning Herald asking me, how could I be a councillor if I'm banned from all of the buildings? And at 2 o'clock, I got a letter from the general manager saying, you are banned from all of the buildings, all of the premises. You can only attend council meetings through a telephone. And I had my lawyers write to him, and then he resigned. So we asked for the resignation letter, which under the legislation says must be provided to councillors because we employed the general manager. We weren't allowed to have it. We passed a resolution demanding the resignation letter be produced. And then we found out, well, the mayor had read it, and I think Councillor Davis had read it. And we said, well, why do some councillors get it and others don't? And they ran out of reasons. Eventually, they produced the resignation letter, and it appears to have been edited. But
No.
yeah, everything is suspect. This is the second story. I'll share you this today. So I got 4 legal cases running between me and the pretend Office of Local Government at the moment. So the matter over suspension number 1, the matter over suspension number 2. They've filed, I haven't shared this with the public yet, but the OLG have filed in the NCAT separately to have me sacked and banned for 5 years. Now, there's no coincidence that on about the 28th of February this year, that's exactly what Nicole Overall, MLC, said to Ron Honig. We need to get this guy in the NCAT, get him sacked and get him banned for 5 years. Well, that's what they've now gone and done. And I've said all along this is a conspiracy from when they banned me at day 1 to now. So when you go to the councillor expense policy, and Anthony and I have talked about this because the Temora Council policy is a bit different to the Snowy Moneros. My legal costs can be paid by the council. So I can actually bat on forever and fight the council with its own money and pay for barrister and proper representation. So I put a claim in for my legal expenses, and I'm already $50,000 down at the moment. That's what I've paid in the last 11 months for all the representation. And they basically said, go fuck yourself, we're not paying. I highlighted the policy, the points in the policy, and the reasons why, and they say that they're not going to do it. Well, guess what turned up in our council meeting today? A draft revised councillor expense policy where they now propose to say council may, if requested, indemnify or reimburse the reasonable legal expenses of councillor defending an action arising from the performance in good faith of a function under the Local Government Act, provided that the outcome of the legal proceeding is favourable to the councillor. They only want to pay your legal expenses if you win. And then secondly, reimbursement of expenses for reasonable legal expenses must have council approval by way of a resolution at a council meeting prior to costs being incurred. And in my situation, because half of the council are complaining about me None of them could vote because they've got a conflict of interest, so there wouldn't be a quorum. So they're trying to rewrite the policy to prevent me from accessing the funds to be properly represented in a court.
Of course
That's
they
corrupt.
are. Fuck. I'd like to say that I'm surprised, shocked, or any of the above, but this just seems to me to be standard operating procedure. If in doubt, manoeuvre the game to suit yourself.
But when you take that into account, when you look at the whole current code of conduct system, the idea that the general manager is the final decision maker as to whether or not to proceed with a code of conduct investigation against an individual, then the general manager will appoint an investigator who will be retained for a fee. And then the general manager will provide evidence and information to the investigator. The investigator will go away and come back and furnish up a draft investigation report, then a final investigation report. And then they'll issue an invoice for their services rendered. And the investigator hands down findings. And then the council makes, the investigator makes recommendations, and the council make a final resolution based on those findings.
Yep.
It's an unusual situation whereby you can hire the investigator who then makes the findings. Even in the most basic court of law, if a policeman brings a charge against you, they can present their evidence, you can present your evidence before a judge, and the judge makes a decision independent of either party.
Yes.
In this instance, they're basically paying for the decision from the person who's done the investigation, and it's very difficult to separate the process. I find it a little bit hard.
It's a quasi-judicial process, and this is actually one of the fundamental platforms in my arguments. I ran it in NCAT last week, and I will keep running this argument. These disciplinary measures under the Code of Conduct or under the Local Government Act or what have you are basically judicial. They are disciplining a publicly elected official. And we just saw Daryl Maguire got slotted for 10 months because he went to court before a judge, a member of the judiciary who is impartial. The police put on their evidence, he put on his defence, like you say, and a judge who isn't involved in it had to make a ruling on the evidence and be accountable to that ruling. When you've got a general manager funding the investigator and at the same time saying, well, we're only going to pay your legal expenses if you win, well, of course, they're not going to let you win. And they don't want to spend $10,000 or $15,000 of ratepayers' money for it to be found to be a bullshit complaint, because then theoretically you could go them for some compensation or...
How many investigators are going to get work when they deliver a result that the council doesn't want to pay for?
Well, this is where it gets even worse.
Comes back and actually fines against the council. How does that work?
Well, it gets even worse. It's a judicial or a quasi-judicial function, and you're using a lawyer who you pay for, and you're asking them to be impartial, but they work for the person who pays them.
Yes.
So that's the conflict.
Yes.
And then, of course, they're only given certain information. You as the respondent, they give you the bare minimum. I know in my case, I've got so many codes of conduct, they've never given me anything.
Pretty hard to defend yourself when they won't give you the information that they're using to convict you.
Correct. It's called a kangaroo court.
Well,
and Breaker Morant was shot by firing squad through one of those, if I remember my history correctly.
Yes. Ned Kelly railed against the treatment and the unfairness of the judiciary or the legal system in his Jerilderie letter, I think, back in the day. It's been going on for a while.
It's not a new scam that they're running here. It's obviously been modified and tightened up, and a lot more legalese has been added to the mix.
It seems to be the same game.
Same game, same corruption, same dodgy shit.
I did the maths. Yeah.
Sorry,
I did the maths, and if I made a Ned Kelly outfit now to withstand the 338s or 223s or what have you, I wouldn't be able to walk. I wouldn't be able to lift the damn thing off the ground.
No. You'd have to get some biz alloy or some titanium or something a little bit more than Ned had.
Oh, a bit of inch hardox over a bulldozer, maybe. Gee, I wonder if anyone's
Yeah.
ever thought of that.
Yeah. Now, a little chestnut that the mayor released today at the council meeting when we were discussing the live streaming of the council meetings, and we discussed that there was an intention or a request of the minister to have these meetings live streamed. He was pretty adamant that he wanted that to occur.
Mm.
The mayor said that the minister has told him that he intends to release the new code of conduct by the end of August.
Well,
Now
what's he got?
that's
10 days.
interesting. That's interesting. That's right. They've got 10 days. It's the 21st today, 31
Hey,
days.
can you pop into his office tomorrow when you're in Sydney and grab a copy for tomorrow, save him the post?
Well, I could
Certainly try.
certainly try. If the mayor's got that information from the horse's mouth, then surely there must be a rough draft sitting in the inbox there somewhere.
Well, we all provided our feedback nearly a year ago, if I remember.
That's right. It had to go in November last year, so it's been there for a while.
No, we also remember we did the CODA meeting practice first, and that was just around the time of the election, which is September 14th. And then we had a couple of weeks to do the code of conduct.
Yes. The draft stuff had to be in by November.
Yeah.
It's very interesting timing when you consider that budget estimates are coming up. And
yeah, I'm going to go.
It's one of the first things the minister gets asked each time at budget estimates is, where are you up to with the new code of conduct?
Well, now, you got Mark Latham trying to slot Whitworth because Whitworth's still got outstanding questions on notice that he's refusing to answer over this Bayside Council scandals.
Yes, but Mr. Whitworth had made his public statement.
No, he's made a private member's response, but he still hasn't answered the questions from the committee. That's still a live issue.
But there's also, at the same time, there's also a separate committee being set up to run an inquiry into Bayside Council.
Yeah.
So that's running at a MLC, a Legislative Assembly level. Now,
well, maybe one of them was Gladys's boyfriend for a period too. I mean, God only knows what comes out in these inquiries.
Well, the interesting thing is the minister is scheduled to appear before budget estimates on the 2nd or the 3rd of September. So there is some impetus or some urgency in finalising the code of conduct framework because it's been a pet project. Now, the minister came to power, I think, in April 2023. So he's getting well into his tenure here, and he was talking about it prior. So, I think he might. I don't know how his timing works, but I don't know. There'll be some movement at the station, I imagine, in the next 2 weeks.
Well, he's got a by-election on his hands at the moment too, down in Kiama to try to win us. So there's apparently a conga line of ministers that are going to be going through Kiama this weekend.
I'd imagine there would be. They'd be going very hard at Kiama. They need that extra seat in the House. They've got to do some shady deals with some people they don't particularly like at the moment to get their legislation passed. They'd much prefer to do it with a sledgehammer like ease of Mr. Albanese.
I'm waiting for them to try to pass shit by exception like our councils all do.
It won't be far off. It's coming 100 mile an hour.
How often at Snowy Valleys Regional Council do you get a report that comes to council where the council officer will inform you that they've taken an action or made a decision and they just need you to rubber stamp it retrospectively?
Retrospectively, not so much. We catch them out too well, but there was some business today proposed to deal with some drafting errors in DAs. And I sort of read it and I found it really hard to understand. It's incredibly convoluted. And it's funny that when I was in for those debates in March from memory, April maybe, February or April, whichever they were, some of them, there was some DAs in Jindabyne in February and I think there were some in April. And we said, I don't think these are well developed. I think there are some issues and errors still involved. No, it's fine. And here they are bringing back a modification application to their own DA to try to tidy up an error. They just didn't listen to us at the time, but not too many retrospective things.
Yeah, we've had quite a few come through where they say, look, we would have liked to have asked you, but just the timing didn't allow. But because it complies with this part of our service delivery program, or that part of our service delivery program, we're sure that you'll be quite happy to rubber stamp it.
I think when that happens in our case, they don't tell us. Don't ask, don't tell. Worked for the American military for a long time.
Yes. So how are you going personally? Everything okay?
Oh, mate, I've just told New South Wales that we've got too many women in Parliament. Got a great article in Sydney Morning Herald tonight. I think
Oh, you in the paper again, Andrew?
Yeah, 3 women are running for New South Wales Parliament. A male serial pest wants to stop them. Sydney Morning Herald.
The serial pest. They're rolling that fresh bit of information out.
3 women have emerged as front runners in the battle for a seat in New South Wales Parliament, but a serial pest with a history of misogynist comments wants to stop them.
It depends. Are the 3 women running competent in any way, shape, or form, or are they screaming fucking banshees? If they're screaming fucking banshees, I don't want them anywhere near the joint. If they're ruthlessly efficient and hardcore gangsters who are going to go in there and handle their business and do a bloody good job, well, I'll probably tolerate their existence, regardless of whether they're male or female. But they're replacing Gareth Ward, so there was already a screaming banshee woman in the seat, so who cares?
So yeah, the Green
screaming banshee.
They forgot to put her in the article. She's a bit of an afterthought because it's actually 4 women running. So yeah, there's a Climate 200, and her nickname is Kate Disastrous because everything she touched goes to shit. She hammered hundreds of core flutes up to all the power poles throughout the electorate, and everyone got the shits by saying, well, isn't that illegal? And she basically didn't care. The Greens hammered all their core flutes with nails into trees, and people were saying, hang on, what, you're not allowed to do that either. What's going on? Labor and Liberals just dumped tons of money. Chris Minns went and dumped 20 million in Kiama yesterday. And that's money that he took away, and he apologized for taking it away and had to pinky promise that we're not, that you will get it. We're not taking it away again. I mean, it's just bullshit. It is such a joke that they treat the
bribing the electorate is nothing new, Andrew. That's what they do.
No, but
that sounds a little bit pork barreling. That sounds a little bit pork barrelaro-ish, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You know what? So I've announced I'm running. Couple of reasons. I'm using it as a way to prove that I have a right to political communication, where I bring in the decisions of the High Court that state that it shall not be interfered with nor limited, and also invoking, I think it's Article 19 of the Protection of Human Rights of the United Nations and these covenants of human rights, saying that political views shall not be interfered with nor sort of traduced or shortened or limited. So the NCAT refuses to hear me on that argument, but I'll prove by being a candidate. And it's just an irony. I actually grew up in Camberwarra. So Camberwarra Primary School, Bommo High, they're all Kiama electorate. So I've got a couple of outrageous ideas, and the most outrageous idea is I want to rename the electorate. I don't think it should be called Kiama because it involves Berry, Shoalhaven Heads, Bomaderry, half of Nowra. I think one half of Warragee Street in Nowra is the western side is Kiama and the eastern side is Gilmore or something. Kiama, so Camberwarra, where I grew up, Kangaroo Valley, Fitzroy Falls. There's a whole lot of places that are in this Kiama electorate, and yet when the government talks about the electorate of Kiama, they're literally only talking about Kiama, maybe Gerringong. Yeah. It's unfortunate that we do that. The same with the Monero, where I live.
Have you got a proposal for the renaming?
Well, we talk about, I haven't done that for Monero, but I will. But when we talk about Monero, we're actually only referring to Queanbeyan.
Yes.
We don't give a shit about the rest of the electorate. We just care about Queanbeyan. That's where 80% of the voters live. So you only have to impress Queanbeyan, and to hell with
Same
the
with
rest of the
Riverina and Wagga, really. Like, I mean, that's the reality with a lot of these electorates. Pick your biggest city, and if you're well known enough, because let's be fair, you don't have to necessarily have good policy. It's who is most well known that
But
gets elected.
There is on the back of Daryl Maguire dropping the ball as hard as he did.
You watch, if he ran again, he'd get in.
But, well, Dr. Joe Kerr, as an independent, has actually been fairly successful in that seat.
He's done quite well, yeah.
Yeah, so Joe's done enough and achieved enough, and I think everybody, and I don't know whether the week that Daryl's had this week would do him any favours, because everyone remembers what he got up to. So Joe's done a pretty good job, and it goes to show that you don't have to vote for the major parties to get a reasonable outcome. In fact, more often than not, out in the bush, if you pick an independent, you get better representation, and certainly the major parties are much more interested in entertaining some of your proposals because they know they don't own you.
Yeah, I
So
thought it was.
the people of Kiama would be well served to consider you as a candidate because Mr. Minns is going to have to entertain some of your suggestions.
Well, that's right. I think the universe had a missed opportunity that Gareth's in Cessnock jail and Maguire could have gone in there, could have shared a cell, and you know,
That would have been very romantic.
Swap notes.
oh, it's like a little prayer room. You know, there's a lot of people in federal parliament spend a lot of time on their knees in the prayer room. So,
Yeah.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So, Councillor Richard Foley from Wagga, who's tuning in this evening. Good evening, Richard. I know you posted a couple of times, but I thought I'd better get that in. If the ALP wins, Joe Magoo will be utterly powerless and no chance of influence on the government nor legislation. He was one of 3 MPs that guaranteed the Minns government's passage to form government. He should have used that power assertively. Yeah, no, we got very little assertive action. So watch for Wagga to also have an open seat. I think there's probably some merit in that argument as well. It's all about the numbers game and where the numbers line up and just how beholden to who to what. A strong crossbench is hugely important to hold the bigger fish to account. And
Oh, look, even at Temora Shire Council and even at Snowy Monera, one individual can make a huge change. On paper, I lost both notices of motion tonight, but yet both of the actions that I called for have been undertaken.
Yeah.
And the scrutiny that one individual can bring, it only takes the simple utterance of the phrase, do you think the ratepayers would accept that? Or do you think the ratepayers would agree? Or I wonder what the ratepayers would think about that proposal. Quite often has the desired effect. And whilst a lot of things that may have been raised don't even raise their head when they're in a situation when they know they've got someone who will actually engage the ratepayers and have some sort of an open discussion. What are your thoughts there, Andrew?
well, it's correct. So one of my mates, Troy Stoles, he's the gambling whistleblower. He's up on Upper Hunter Council, and he lives in Merriwar, and they have the indubious honour of drinking radioactive water that the council voted down a proposal to connect into the broader Hunter water system via a pipeline through Sandy Hollow, for example. It's an eminently sensible solution. They won't do it. So Merriwar has radioactive water. Now, there's a nursing home, and there was a proposal by the staff to close the nursing home and punt the residents. And I was chatting with Stolzy, and I said, hey, if you get in first and you move the motion, so you move the staff recommendation to become the motion, it's then your motion, and then just replace the text with your own version, which would be, we keep the nursing home open, we look at partnership and funding opportunities, rah-de-rah. So he did exactly that. That nursing home is still open. And he moved the motion, replaced the description or the text and the form and function of the motion. And the other councillors were so embarrassed that they were going to be closing it and the community turned up that they voted in support of Stolzy's new motion. They still have their nursing home, stay of execution, federal government guaranteed funding to prolong it, etc. And away you go. One councillor against the majority flipped it on its head. Community interest was served.
That's exactly right. You've only got to bring some attention to a matter and cause a little bit of embarrassment, and all of a sudden, it's amazing just what a lone hand can achieve. Seemingly outnumbered and outgunned. I find people say to me, "Why would you go in there? Why would you put yourself through it?" And you go, "I'm getting a fair bit of stuff done. You're just reading it wrong."
Well, you care about your community, right? I mean, I grew up in the Kiama electorate. I grew up down the coast. And I've lived in the Monaro for 20 years. I
Yes.
actually care about the future of the Monaro, and I've got 5 kids. My eldest is 16, about to get his L's and start venturing on the roads. Our roads are shit.
Yeah.
We should be maintaining them better. We should be telling the truth. Our council was going to propose to no longer maintain any road, any bitumen road that had less than 100 cars using it per day, and that they would not maintain any dirt road that had less than 30 cars using it per day, which would probably be most of our council roads because we don't
Yes.
have a very big population. There was enormous community outrage against that. And so that hasn't happened. But the idea hasn't gone away.
But from a community productivity standpoint, the main driver in your region would be ag-based production. Is that correct?
So there's a lot of forest production down out of the Bombala sector. There's general cows, wool and sheep.
Yes.
And then the tourism sector based out of Jindabyne with the skiing, the snow, what have you.
Every single part of those industries rely heavily on the road network.
We are 15,000 square kilometres with a population of 21,000.
Yeah.
If you go to what was that Cumberland Council? Is it Cumberland Council? The one where the crazy chick went nuts at the Muslim guy a couple of weeks ago. And that
Cumberland. Steve Christie, the Libertarian Party's on the council. A good guy.
It's something like 68 square kilometres, and there's 480,000 people in it.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. No, Blanchshire is the same. Blanchshire is measured in square kilometres, and it's massive. And the road network that they have to maintain per capita. And even when you get out further west, when you get out to that central Darlingshire with Ivanhoe, Wilcannia,
back of Burke, out behind Moree. I mean, you look at Roy Butler as the Shooters Party member.
Barwon.
Out of Barwon.
Barwon. He had to fly around it. It's so big. I mean,
Yeah. It's massive.
But honestly, to be productive, any council that doesn't maintain their road network is anti-progress, anti the community, anti-jobs. Like around Temora, 98%, I would venture, of the external income that comes into this shire is generated through the ag industry, and it relies wholeheartedly on road transport. Every movement. Once they get it into an aggregation centre, they can load it onto rail, but all of those movements require trucks in the first instance. So I believe it's really important for Temora Shire Council to focus on having a really strong road network to support that industry, because that's the main economic driver in the community. Anyone who doesn't want to maintain roads out in the bush is basically driving a stake through the heart of their economic prospects.
Well, there's that, and the ever-increasing cost of maintenance and parts, and as they say, your vehicle has to be roadworthy, but the roads aren't vehicle-worthy. And now the government's contemplating adjustments to the tax regimes, they're going to look at a kilometre or distance-based arrangement. So if I'm going to pay a per kilometre rate to drive on a road in my new electorate of Kiama where it's bitumen and it's smooth, but you want me to pay the same per kilometre rate to drive around Snowy Monaro or Temora, I'm going to have this shits, because the Kiama roads will be much nicer than the Temora or the Snowy Monaro roads. But they won't be able to do differential pricing.
No, I will make comment on that. The roads around here are currently, in my opinion, I've travelled a fair bit over the last few years, they do hold their own against their peers. they do manage to do a fairly good job of it, but that can go off a cliff pretty quick. So I'm pretty vigilant in that space, and anytime that type of conversation is had, I'm always a full supporter of making sure that that road network's maintained, because it really is the lifeline for the community, and every part of economic activity in the Shire, it takes in that road network somehow.
Well, and a lot of it comes back to the special access vehicles, the higher productivity vehicles. I've made this argument in some road forums I went to, and if you look around the state generally, if not the country, most of our roads, realistically 100 years, 120 years old. And
Yes.
for their first half of their life, they were all dirt. And
Yep.
then we just stuck bitumen over the top. And the earlier trucks, your Blitzers and your Commas and things like that, 20 ton, 30 ton, 40 ton. A long time. When I was a boy, the biggest truck was a 42 ton, 3-axle prime mover. Single steer, bogey drive, 3 axles on the trailer, spring suspension. Now we've got tries pushing 96 ton on the same bitumen.
Yes.
And we haven't actually thought about the increase in pavement thickness. We seem to be using a cheaper bitumen a lot of the time. We've experimented with polymer modified bitumens, but we don't want to spend the money on it. We don't ever do proper longevity studies. And we've never gone back even to fix a lot of the culverts, which is just an inch thick concrete pipe sitting in a bit of road base. Let's be honest. It was good for a horse and cart. It might have been okay for a 42 ton triaxle prime, but a 96 ton prime, try or an ABB, no way. And that's why.
But the axle limits are the same on all these vehicles. It's just a different combination.
No, they're not. No, you've got high productivity. So if I have a Euro 3 truck, I am limited to 6 ton on the steer. If I had a Euro 4 truck, I was allowed to go to 6.5 ton. I think Euro 6, they allowed you to go over 7 ton. And then there was some other bullshit productivity increases. Your bogey
but that's
groups.
all being pushed by the big end of town. That's all being pushed by your Lynn Foxes and your Tolls and the big guys. They're all pushing that sort of stuff.
And that's strictly in response to cost of labour. And I absolutely get that. But the other side of the equation was we're still repairing the road with the same design basis from the 1950s. It's a 10 mil thick bitumen layer, or it's a spray chip seal. We haven't really evolved our road maintenance. And yet I've driven in the Autobahn between Frankfurt and Switzerland down to Luzerne at 200 and I think we got to 200 and 60 kilometers an hour in a BMW M1. Yes. And we were getting overtaken by Maseratis, but on our right-hand side, we're a whole bunch of 60-ton lorries doing 100.
Yeah.
Those roads were beautiful.
Yes.
So
we can't seem to get that quite right here. But like I say, they're the sort of things that really do councils really should be focusing on. There's a lot of distraction and a hell of a lot of events and a lot of roles that councils are sort of taken on that really aren't their stock in trade.
Well, your mate Tim Molesworth just said power prices. Let's dovetail power prices into roads because they want us to move to electric vehicles. In the country, where are we going to charge these bloody things? We don't have enough power lines to deliver the power to charge all these vehicles. A truck from Sydney to Melbourne is going to need to get recharged a megawatt hour to get halfway. It's going to be about 2 to 2.5 megawatt hours to go Sydney to Melbourne, around about 40 ton, 50 ton truck weight. I don't think anyone really appreciates just what is involved in a megawatt hour. It's a big transformer. It's a lot of energy. Most of our towns are almost maxed out on their grid capacity through the essential energy network. And to tell us that we're going to need to move into electric trucks and everybody has an electric car, how the hell are we going to charge these damn things?
I know a guy who lives on a farm south of Ardlethan who runs out of power consistently because he's on the end of the line. And he has multiple blackouts on a consistent basis. At West Wyalong a few years ago, if you wanted to put a split system on at your house, the electrician had to make an application through Essential Energy because the grid in that area was so compromised that the addition of a split system could have thrown it into overload. How on earth are you going to sit there and charge 20 electric vehicles on some sort of a high charge current situation? It's, you know yourself, I know at home, if I put the toaster in one plug and the kettle in the other, and I press them both at the same time,
Bang, she's done.
the circuit breaker says, you're a fool.
Well, there's your power price. You probably can't quite read it, but
Yeah.
New South Wales, $250 a megawatt hour.
Yes.
Right now. That's 25 cents a kilowatt hour. And I read some studies from and some annual reports from AGL. They run Loy Yang and Bayswater.
Yes.
The actual total cost of fuel for a year for their power stations is $20.5 a megawatt hour. That's their average or over whole year cost for electricity. So they're currently making 10 times the coal cost tonight.
Yes.
But yet this morning it was down to sort of, $20. South Australia was minus $20. We have built a very variable grid. And whilst there are great opportunities with some renewable energy zones, our councils haven't ever featured in those conversations. And instead, our council's tearing itself apart a bit, where half of them want the windmills and the other half don't. And meanwhile, I'm suspended, but I'm the guy sitting there. I actually own a solar farm and can provide great information and technical knowledge. They don't want to hear from me.
No, they don't like they don't like people who know their stuff. They'd rather do a report from a consultant.
Yes, absolutely. And then I pick the report apart, and who are you to say that? You're not an expert. Well, that's the common refrain. You're not an expert. Okay, that's fine. You know what? Just
I'm the guy who owns a solar farm. Yeah, it makes no sense.
And a truck and a scrap metal company that recycles power stations.
No, it's hilarious.
Got a shout out to Richard Foley. He is our mate. His dad is in or has been in hospital. So thinking of Kevin. I know Kevin's he's getting on in the years, but I was a bit surprised to see that. I guess you think these guys are going to last forever, but they don't. So thinking of you, Richard.
Yeah, mate. Yes, Kevin. I met Kevin at the last federal election I participated in, and he come in and he tore shreds off Mr. McCormack, and it was highly entertaining. And Richard and I spoke about that the other week when I sort of saw that post up about his dad as well.
All the best.
Absolutely. And he's just sort of put on a bit of a post here, Richard. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Councillor Richard Foley from Wagga, the current model for funding and managing regional roads failing, leaving councils with large networks to maintain but limited resources. An alternative approach would be to establish a regional road infrastructure authority, combining federal, state and local funding into a single pool managed by a centralised team of engineers and asset managers serving multiple councils. This would prioritise roads based on data such as traffic volumes, freight demand, and safety. What do you think about that, boys?
Well, you need to build on that and remind everybody just what we pay in tax. And it's funny that we had a tax roundtable the last couple of days by a bunch of navel-gazing muppets that, let's be honest, they're all on government income, so they never ever see the tax burden. But we pay excise.
They are the tax burden. They are the reason.
They do see it every time they get up in the morning and they brush their teeth.
What is it? 49 cents per litre fuel excise. We pay a 10% GST on top of that. So there's another 4.9 cents tax on the tax. So the GST is taken on top of the excise. There's still that 3x3 levy that was only supposed to be in for 3 years, 30 fucking years ago. That's still there. So it's 3x3.
Last time I counted, Andrew, there was about 124 different taxes, levies, stamp duties, and other bullshit thefts and rorts applied to the Australian people. Obviously, not all at once, but in different ways. Luxury car tax, that fine tax that was brought in to ensure that Holden and Ford would continue manufacturing and maintain all those jobs in Australia. That's still there. And fortunately for Australians, we're still getting Australian-made cars by some of our finest engineers and workers in the country.
Are we? Oh, okay. It's news to me.
Oh, sorry. No, that ended about 30 years ago.
Yeah.
We're still paying that luxury car tax on imports.
I was
Cigarettes.
thinking about of the excise that we pay as a fuel road tax. We also pay road tax in our registration, and it's something like 15 or 20% of it actually gets spent on the roads. The rest gets pissed away in the bureaucracy and now the NDIS and whatever else. So we would have autobahns between Sydney and Brisbane and Perth if the excise money that we pay was actually spent on roads, but it's hoovered into general revenue. And that's the scam.
Well, the whole thing's a scam. It's a complete farce. And, look, we're all just being raped and pillaged. We don't have a cost of living crisis. We have a cost of government crisis. I think it's upwards of 50% of the Australian population is now reliant on government money for its existence.
Hey, do you want a scary statistic? A mate of mine told me today. I know where the link is. I haven't brought it tonight, though. The New South Wales government is the largest employer in the Southern Hemisphere.
That doesn't surprise me one iota. And at some point, we're going to run out of other people's money, or pricks like us who actually work really bloody hard for a living are going to get tired of carrying all this shit on our back, and we're going to go, no more. Sorry, bugger off.
I'm already at that point. I'm over it. I am really struggling to actually have the enthusiasm to execute on these ideas I've come up with. I mean, I invented a fertilizer. We've done some really good stuff, and I just can't find the motivation anymore. It's like, why?
What's the wrong? What are we doing? We're working our clackers off so that some half-assed lazy fuckwit can burn 200 grand a year and tell us all what we're doing wrong while working our clacker off.
But even just like back to Andrew's point, okay, you develop a fertilizer, it's a great idea, it's probably going to be commercially viable, but the handicapper is going to intervene. And they're going to absolutely leech every opportunity out of that thing to the point where it becomes unviable by the time you pay all of your testing and your compliance and your this and your that and your something else and your tax on this and your tax on that. And then don't discount the fact that you've also got the big end of town who don't like the upstart competitors, and they'll be putting impediments in as well. They love compliance and they love certification and they love government red tape because their cost per unit is X amount, whereas your cost per unit is 3X amount. So, the whole thing is geared against the only thing that I can say, and I'm the same, I work for myself and have done since 1990, is just I live outside the cage. A huge amount of Australia are living in a cage.
Whoops.
Yeah, we're back.
We're back.
Yeah, sorry, froze for a moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of Australians who prefer the security of their cage and the comfort of knowing that there's four very stout walls around them and a door that's closed but not locked. And they refuse to actually go out into the outside scary world and back themselves and take a risk and stand up on their own 2 feet. It'll be a travesty when Australia gets to the point where even people like that they can't do it.
Oh, look, I weigh it up all the time.
I think we're there. Anthony, I actually think we're there. The amount of people I know that are actually raising their sort of hands in the air and saying, no, I'm done. I'm done.
There's a lot of people I know will stay in jobs they hate for the security that job they hate provides because they're too shit scared to go and do something that actually reward them.
Yeah, that's true.
Reward anymore.
But
what's left at the end of that reward? The doers are just about done.
There's so many people who sit in these dead end jobs and they hate the job with a passion.
Sure, but I'll bet their bills are paid at the end of the month.
Oh, that's it.
Only just, Dean. You actually talk to most people. Everybody is just getting by. The amount of closed businesses, cafes closing up. I'm
Holding on for dear
surprised.
life.
Jindabyne at the moment is very low on. It's got great snow, but very low bookings. Struggling to get people. The traffic jams are not like they used to be in the last. I mean, I know it's expensive as shit to go skiing in Australia, but people have run out of money. That's the broad reality.
That disposable type treat, because it's not an essential thing. A trip to the snow, it's nice.
Well, a coffee is a standard coffee somewhere is $7 these days. You can get a coffee for $5. You're doing well, but a coffee is $7.
Yeah.
So,
and heaven help you if you like a frothy on a Friday night.
Yeah, well,
that's what the third job's for, so that you can afford a beer. You see.
And if you want to have a smoke, you got to ring the bank manager up before you light up and see if it's okay.
Oh, Anthony, come to Cooma. We got 3 bloody ciggies in the main street. Crikey's Nimbidabel had the illegal cigarettes being sold out of the Birdie Salmonella Cafe. Oh, that's a funny story. She's in court in 2 weeks' time, 5th of September.
There's a lot of people in court at the moment.
Court's a very busy place.
Did you follow the story about Michael Axarian, the graphic designer from Wagga, who put a poster up in his window at the last federal election? Well, he went to court yesterday. I haven't caught up with what the outcome was. I just haven't had time, but I'll get on to Michael in the next few days and find out what actually went on there, and we might be able to report on that next week.
I can't imagine the Nationals wanting to stifle free speech. So I probably disagree with that in the bit I've seen about him on 80% of anything he could come out with. But I'm just stunned that a party that's so affiliated with the Liberal Party of Australia, a conservative free speech beacon like the Liberal National Party, would possibly be opposed to him being able to express his view publicly and freely. I'm stunned, just shocked.
Are you stuck in the? We've jumped forward to 2025, mate. That's 30 years ago.
Mate, if it did what it said on the box, I don't think any of us would be here. I don't think any of us would. Any of these positions if the Liberal National Party did a third of what it says on the box.
And it's interesting the moral outrage at Trump, and that you see during the week that Trump got his mate Putin to jump into the presidential car. It's got a funny nickname. I can't remember what it is, but that special funky danky bulletproof nuclear bomb proof car that the president drives around in. Putin hopped in with Trump and they left the airport and went and had a bit of a chat. And there's all this outrage over it. But that's what a host does. You pick up your guest in your car, take them to your venue. It's not hard to be a moral or a virtuous or an upholding citizen, be it from the Liberal, the Conservatives. We just want a little bit less tone policing from the left, a little bit more conservatism from the Conservatives. Let's go back to the 1980s, maybe. I actually quite enjoyed the 1980s, but
I was born in the 1980s, so it must have been all right.
1970s for me.
I was in high school in the 80s. I listened to some ABC reporting after the Trump-Putin meeting, and they were also,
you didn't. You're lucky you're still with us.
They're all saying Putin had absolutely owned Donald and got all these concessions and blah 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 and blah blah blah. But none of those people have managed to get Putin to the table to discuss anything in that space whatsoever. Now he's since subsequently had a meeting with Mr. Zelensky. Mr. Zelensky wore a suit and he actually used his manners.
Well, more than that, Trump basically summoned all the European leaders, and the Canadian Prime Minister wasn't welcome. And the joke is, if you look at the photo with the European leaders, there's a pot plant in the lineup, and they're saying that was the stand-in for the Canadian Prime Minister.
Yeah, so
you can guarantee the Australian one didn't get an invite either.
If Trump can manage to curtail the Ukraine war in some respect, he'll still be pilloried for the outcome, and
it'll matter not.
Yeah.
It will matter not. There is a a bit of an old saying that says, I won't do this and I won't do that because I'll offend the left. And the response generally is that the left's already offended. So it doesn't matter whether you want to offend them or not. You're wasting your time trying to appease that particular corner of the community because they're offended by, if they're not offended by A, they'll be offended by B. They're going to be offended anyway. So
Well, that's why I gave them this.
don't bend your principles. And this is what we're seeing with the Liberal Nationals at the moment. They're so directionless, so all over the shop because they're trying to appease these people who hate them. And the people who already hate them are never going to vote for them just because all of a sudden they do female quotas in the Liberal Party. They're still going to be hated as the Liberal Party. So stop trying to appease people who hate you.
It's even simpler to explain. They wanted us to accept men saying that they're women. Like, well, okay, whatever, that's fine. Oh, but we want men in women's sport now. Okay, we want men in women's gyms. That was the older argument with Fernwood and all that sort of thing. Oh, okay, yeah, whatever. Well, women there, we want to go into your men's club. Ooh, okay. It just never ended. It was never enough. And so then finally...
They'll keep going. There'll always be another fucking imbecile who's going to have a tantrum about why they can't. That bloke who plays
Giggle v Tickle. Well, the Giggle v Tickle.
That's right up there in the dumbest shit on planet Earth. You've got that. What's his name? He was playing very high. Bouncy, whatever his name is. Bouncy, fell at a very high level. The bloke's bigger than what any of us are, and he wants to play women's Olympic handball, and he's very offended because they're not going to let him. You're a bloke. That's a women's team. Let me make it real fucking clear. No. Just no, not happening. End of story. Once children hit 12, right, that's when the boys start to fill out. Their muscles get stronger, the bones get stronger, everything gets bigger. That's when they no longer play together, and the girls become girls' teams in girls' sports, and boys play in boys' sports and become men's sports. There is no more crossover over that. Okay, if you want to have a social... We used to do night soccer social where it was men versus, mixed.
Yes.
That's fine, but there were certain things in place that sort of moderated that. And obviously, everyone calmed the fuck down and,
Well, there was respect, because you knew that the women bounce off you. That's the difference. I'm a dad. I got 2 sons and 3 daughters. And interestingly, my 2 youngest boy-girl twins, they're now 8 years of age. And you've got the boy is a lot more solid than the girl. The girl can outdraw and out sort of perform in what we would say more girl type of interested things.
That's sexist, Dan.
It is. But I've got a real-time biological experiment running in my house 24/7 to watch them, how they grow up, with the same exact stimulus at exactly the same time in the exact same place, and I can see the natural expression that comes and the differences, and yet they're like on a permanent play date. It's actually they make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
But we haven't put any particular pressures on them, and whilst we joke about things, we haven't hit them up with some ridiculous ideas that they can be what they can't be.
Yeah.
They've just natural kids, and the girl has particular interests that are stereotypically aligned with girls, as does the boy. And then the boy was more solid and more heavy than the girl. She's now taller than him. I think she runs faster than him. She can write and draw better than him. And it's a little sort of contest between themselves. But allowing all this,
and that'll balance out when he has his little boy growth, but which generally, from all reports, happens far later than little girls. That's just biology. I know that confuses a lot of people in 2025, but it's just how humans are designed, and there's natural reasons for that. And the fact that, let's be fair, this is led by delusional celebrities and other imbeciles along those lines, and it's just out of control. There is no way for any metric, any planet, any whatever you want to throw out there, that there is anywhere near as many genuinely transgendered children as the Western world is currently purporting. If you open any social media or read any mainstream media outlet, whatever, it's just not possible. There are certain people who obviously have issues, and there are little girls who could arguably be what we used to refer to when I was a kid as a tomboy, who like biking, fishing, fighting, whatever. And there are some effeminate boys, there's no doubt about it, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the natural part of. But it doesn't mean you're in the wrong body. It doesn't mean you got to cut your willy off. It doesn't mean that the entire world has to all of a sudden succumb to your innate need because, you know, you've decided all of a sudden to take estrogen and become a woman. The whole world doesn't fall into that and go, oh, guess what? You know, well, you've decided this, so now we're all going to play pretend with you. It's just not how it happens.
Well, what we don't need to do in a simple view is we as adults don't need to amplify that. Let kids be kids and let them go through all those phases, because we don't let them vote till they're 18. We don't let them drive a car till they're 17. We don't let them drink alcohol. There's a reason for that. We formed an objective opinion that they were not capable of their own decisions, competent, lasting decisions. So stop amplifying it. And this radiates out and it permeates our council's thinking. If we want to do a new toilet block, suddenly we're stuck with these new potential requirements that they have to be all access toilet blocks, which means a kid's changing bench, a hand dryer, a hand basin, a impaired person's accessible toilet in every stall. And instead of it being 100 grand, it's going to be $1 million.
Yeah, it's ludicrous.
The housing crisis has been predicated upon the overregulation of the building industry and the fact that people can't build a house affordably because of the regulation. HIA released a study recently where they said that about half of the cost of $1 million home in Sydney is represented in fees and regulations and compliance.
And yeah, minimum standards. It is mind-boggling, and it's only getting worse. It's like the manufactured bureaucracy. They keep manufacturing new things to regulate.
Well,
and
down at Bega, not far from where you are, we were following the story of Manu Bone and his partner, who built a tiny home on a caravan chassis. And some friends of theirs said, look, you can park it on our property. Well, the friends have just received an eviction notice. They received a draft eviction notice from Bega Shire Council, and now the Bega Valley, I think it's called. And now they've received a final eviction notice and threats of massive fines and all the rest of it. And here we are in a housing crisis. Now, the council have said they're waiting for some direction from the state government. Well, why?
So I know a bit about that. One of my mates, David Porter, is a councillor in Bega. The Bega Valley Shire Council, BVSC, they did get legal advice which says that the tiny home is strictly against the New South Wales planning law. So the council's hands are a bit tied. And there's a funny parallel. It's another one of the reasons I'm suspended. If you remember the story of the fat dude in the wheelchair, Fat Jesus, whose illegal caravan caught fire in the Nimidabel Caravan Park. He was overstaying his 180-day maximum. It wasn't really a registerable, towable thing. It was a giant 3-axle caravan thing, which is delivered on a tilt tray. It's moved on a tilt tray. And it didn't have a compliance plate on it. It had an annex and all this sort of stuff. It caught fire because it's mostly made of foam and plastic. And I went down as a fire call, and then the rest of it I live streamed. It was so ridiculous. And I'm being disciplined for being breaching the code of conduct. Now, that caravan should never have been there. That incident should never have been allowed to develop and happen, certainly not on council land. The thing down the coast is that the planning system doesn't support these things at the moment. They're fairly new. I mean, they've been around a couple of years, but in the term of planning schemes in New South Wales, which go back to the turn of the century, these tiny homes, they're now appearing on 5-axle trailers. No one in their right mind would drive a rigid 5-axle trailer behind a 4-wheel drive with a 3-ton foam house on the top of it. But legally, they're almost legal, but not enough to pass the planning laws. And that's the conflict. If they had have submitted a DA and done I say, completely bullshit bushfire study and maybe spent a little bit of money, taken a little bit of a hit when they got criticised and put a DA in, they probably could have got around the regulations with a development approval, but they didn't. They dug in, did a petition, and they're trying to say, woe is me, leave us alone. Unfortunately, strictly legally, the council can't allow it to be there because it is in breach of the New South Wales planning law. So therefore, the problem goes back to Macquarie Street in Sydney.
But down in Victoria, there's a council down there who are doing a study or a trial where people who actually want to try this stuff out make contact with the council support them through the process. And they're assessing it as they go. Now, here we are in the middle of a housing crisis, and we've got people who are living in they've made the choice. I'm sure it's quite safe and healthy and everything else in that environment. Their friends have got no issues. They've got surplus land. They're not harming anyone. There's no one complaining.
There's no sewer. I think there's no sewer as a part of the problem. There's like a grey water dump, just a hose onto the paddock or something. So there's a couple of things they could improve. So a small septic system or something would probably solve it.
A composting toilet and the grey water is probably not an issue.
I'll still go back to my same rule: is nobody's fucking business. If they want to live there and the people who own the land are happy with it, I can give a rat's ass what council think.
I agree to an extent, Dean, but when these bloody things catch fire and I'm expected to go and assist or,
Well, are you expected, or have you signed up to be involved to go and exist?
Well, let's say I've got one on my neighbour's property. It's like the motor vehicle accident. You're not allowed to drive past a motor vehicle accident because you can be charged with fail to render assistance. Yeah. There's a moral requirement on us as neighbours and what have you, particularly in our rural areas where ambulances take forever and the police never turn up.
But this, I think there's got to be some minimum standards, surely. But
yes,
but that's true for the caravan industry, and that's true for everything else in the world. The minimum standards aren't hard to meet.
Well, the minimum standards for a lot of Australians at the moment are sleeping under fucking bridges.
Well, this is the other thing. There's a park in Wagga called Wilkes Park where a number of people who are currently homeless are residing in various degrees of shelter that wouldn't meet any code.
No, that's what I'm saying. So I'm not interested in the code. If these people have found something that they can afford, in a cost of government crisis, I don't give a shit what the regulations are. They've found a roof over their head. They're relatively safe and warm. And yes, possibly it could catch fire, but guess what? We could get struck by lightning tomorrow. Or we could get lucky and maybe it'll hit a council building somewhere. Or
it's not hard for someone to put together some very basic regulations that could be disseminated within 6 months, and everyone could get hold of them, and it wouldn't be hard to tick a few boxes and say, "Here's your minimum requirements, bang, let's get on with it."
Yeah, but that doesn't oppose the communists
or the property developers.
That's right.
Yeah, I go to the macro view, Dean, by saying, well, I got a mate who owns a caravan park. He has to have fire hydrants, fire extinguishers, I think quarterly fire inspections. He's got all these insurance requirements, all this shit to be a regulated caravan park. So if he has to go through all those hoops and yet these people don't, well, that's an inequity. And then,
well, you know what my next statement will be. I make no bones about it. If he wants to run a caravan park that doesn't have any of that shit and people want to frequent it, that's entirely up to them. If they do want to frequent it, well, that's nobody's business but the people who want to frequent it and the person who owns the business.
So what usually happens is it turns into a shitty ghetto because there's always the people take it to the extreme. I like the midpoint. So I'm libertarian like you, but I think I don't want a raft of tiny homes on my boundary with my neighbour. They go, oh, yeah, well, I don't really like Andrew. I'll go and put 12 tiny homes along the boundary. It's the last thing I want. There's a balance. I think similar to Anthony.
Sure. There's, I'm always going to argue the most extreme point because I'm done with all these clowns telling us.
There was a letter.
I'm done with all the hoop jumping. I don't want anything to do with any of it. I'd be more than happy to shut the whole lot down and start again. But I mean, I can see the arguments, sure, and I can see the logical arguments. But again, we've got people sleeping under bridges. We've got people who are sleeping in tents in parks and being moved along. Where are you going to move them to? They've got nowhere to go. Well, you think they're sitting in these circumstances because they've, fuck, I own a 3-bedroom house in the centre of Wagga, but I've decided to come and fucking with my shopping trolley in a tent and live in the park while my house is there empty. Of course not. These people have nowhere to go. So if they have to be creative, if they have to do something that's outside some bullshit council regulation, I don't really care what the council has to say about it.
There was a letter to the editor that came into the newspaper, the local newspaper today, from a very astute resident who suggested that currently Temora Shire Council had been granted, or Temora as a community have been granted $95 million to build a new hospital. Now, the Department of Health are going to knock down the original existing hospital and they're going to build a new hospital on the same site. They're going to do that in 2 stages. So they'll move everyone into half of the old hospital. They'll knock down half. They'll build half the new hospital, move everyone in there, knock down the old half, build the second half of the new one. Happy days, move on. There was the suggestion in the letter to the editor today was that why don't we keep the old hospital for housing? Now, that's a great idea. The only problem is who's going to pick up the tab?
Yep.
Now, if you're going to build a new hospital, that's fine. And building it on a greenfield site probably is pretty easy because when you build a new hospital, then when it's finished, move everyone in and the disruption is to an absolute minimum. I think the issue and what happens with a lot of this expenditure is it's done by a department without a consideration of the bigger picture or what would be the best outcome in the long term. And even the reasons that they're building a new hospital would be the same reasons why that building it probably isn't appropriate as housing.
Well, we're not being truthful to the community either about housing. So we've got this big subdivision development in Cooma being built by the state government on Aboriginal land that the Sydney Aboriginal Land Council gave consent to be used because they apparently put a secret land claim on it. And they call it social housing. And when you get through to the fine print, it's police, nurses, school teachers, AMBOs, fireys, etc. It's public service housing with a little bit of social housing mixed in there for some of the LSE, low socioeconomic folk in the community. But the general thrust of it is the people on the top of the hill, you'll be able to privately buy those blocks and do your own thing. In the middle, there'll be a whole lot of townhousey, like, just sandwich shit. That's for the public sector. And then the pubs will probably get the stuff down the bottom of the hill where it's the coldest. We aren't being honest to our communities when we say, we're going to build housing. What did Albo promise 10,000 houses in his last term? What they built? They built 40.
Listen, Albo he can't count past 10 unless he takes his shoes and socks off. That's spastic. Let's be fair.
And so they
call it essential workers. And this is the thing. What makes a nurse more essential than a baker or a butcher or a painter or a plumber or a sparky
how essential is a school teacher?
Essential.
How essential is a school teacher if everybody homeschools?
Yes.
Absolutely.
But even how essential is a school teacher if the power goes off and they can't go to school anyway?
How essential is a school teacher when an awful lot of the kids can't read, write and count anyhow? It's not exactly...
But they also need to get there in their car. So you'd say the mechanics are essential and the bloke who puts the tyres on the car is probably essential. Maybe the person who closes is essential.
The bloke that pumps the petrol has the petrol station and nothing moves without petrol. I mean, it's an entitlement class.
There's this differential occurring where the public servants are being given an inside run on the housing. It's a bit of a recruitment pitch by default, isn't it?
Well, Eden Monero electorate, it's like 60% of the people are directly dependent upon the government through state, federal, local government, NGO, government affiliated, essential energy, like all those things, they are all government tied. And we see things like 1 in 4 boys are on the NDIS. We have a dependence, it's like a Venezuelan dependence upon government. So, of course, the public sector are going to say, we want cheap housing. And the reason the housing's expensive is because of immigration, and locally here in the Snowy Monaro, because we've got the world's biggest white elephant being built by the federal government vis-a-vis Snowy Hydro, that they destroyed the rental market by taking it. And Snowy Hydro rented literally everything, and half the shit stays empty. It's capacity and overflow accommodation. And because there are so many fuck-ups that they invariably don't have enough workers needing the accommodation because they don't want to bring them here because the machine doesn't work, or they're not actually doing any digging or something. It's just a mess built upon a mess, and there's no easy out. We've got to muddle through it.
There's no easy out because we always keep going back to the same thing as a country, obviously. And the solution we keep going is, oh, well, the government will fix it. Well, we need to get the government in there to fix it. Oh, the government will fix it. And
more government money, which
that's right. And they're the tards that caused it.
And what is government money?
A puppy doesn't clean up its own poo.
Well, what is government money? It's yours and my labour.
But you have to sit back and you have to look at what is actually being rolled out in terms of policy. And then you have to ask the question as to how does that enhance our lifestyle today? And you look at all the mistakes that you make and the systems that they're putting in place. And if anything, they're degrading our lifestyle on a daily basis. They're disconnecting us from our food, our clean food. They're disconnecting us from clean water. They're disconnecting us from affordable power. They're disconnecting us from affordable housing. They're taking away any incentive to grow a business or start a business or to make your own way. The whole thing is becoming very, very socialist and very, very Orwellian and very, very controlled. And it's really concerning, that element of it.
Well, they're disconnecting us from each other. Let's fast forward to December 15th. You, I, and Dean won't be allowed to do this unless we've taken photographs of our faces, uploaded our government IDs, and that we leave our front cameras on to prove that we're over 16 to be able to access YouTube or StreamYard or Facebook or Twitter or what have you. We're going to be told you're not allowed on the internet unless you prove you're over 16 on a constant basis. That's disconnecting us from each other. What do we do? I don't want to do a digital ID. I don't think Dean, he doesn't sound like the kind of guy that wants to do a digital ID.
I'll let you, like, I'm a registered firearm owner in New South Wales. I've been subjected to the deepest checks and scrutiny probably that a free citizen can be subjected to in that regime. And look, it's just the next phase. It's like a Medicare card. It's like anything else. It's going to be, if that's the hurdle, that's the hurdle as far as I'm concerned. Like I say, they've got enough info on us as we speak today. They can monitor our phones. They can do this. They can do that. I came in through an airport from an international travel. I had to stand in front of a machine. It took a facial scan of me. So, I'm on the matrix. I'm in the system. And we're going to have to push through that sort of stuff to maintain the connectivity with each other and with the situation. And I know it's uncomfortable, but unless we do that, then we are going to be disconnected from each other. I think it's really important that we keep these lines of communication open, and some people are just going to have to take the hint.
Well, I'm going to say no to it. And for example, the tax office wants to talk to me, send a letter. I'm not doing your email. I'm not doing your stupid bullshit login and use my voice. They keep asking me. I've used the portal, the MyGov, whatever it's called. Can we do a recording of your voice to authenticate you? And how does no fuck off sound? Does that authenticate? Yeah. I'm going to disagree, Anthony. I am going to resist it. No, because I've seen so much corruption.
I'll resist it. I'll resist it, but not to the point where I'll be restricted from. Like, I'm not going to be shut out from having this sort of discourse publicly in Australia.
Oh, I will. I'll accept being shut out for a while, and I think that everybody needs to learn the hard way. Get shut out. Maybe start to appreciate what you miss. No one respects anything until they don't have it. That's the one of the hard realities of human nature.
Oh, look, I beg to differ. I tell you, I'm thankful for everything that I enjoy every day. I tell you, and even we can sit here and sound like we're pissing into our beer. Australia still. I sat down tonight and had a really nice dinner. I had a really good day getting around the community doing some good productive work with some really good people. I had a hearty breakfast, a solid lunch, and a really nice dinner. I'm here with friends tonight. We've got security, we've got safety, we've got comfort. We're warm. We're so far in front of some people in the world, it's not funny. I know it's easy to, yes. I know it's
We have all until till our mates at the government kick in the door here and go, you guys are making inappropriate videos.
I know where it's trending.
And Dean, you just called Albo a spastic. Yeah. You're going to jail.
I know where it's trending, and I don't want to see it go. I can see the way it's going, and I don't want it to go that way. That's what I will resist, and that's what that's why I go to council. That's why I do the stuff I do. People get this misguided idea. I'm on council because I wasn't happy with the way council were running things, and I thought they could do things better. And I don't like the way they operate in the decisions they make for various reasons. So I go on to council, and people say, well, why aren't you singing Kumbaya and being one of the team? Well, no, I got on there because I don't agree with what they're doing, and they don't appreciate me telling them that. And it becomes quite a disjointed sort of thing. But the Office of Local Government seem to want everyone to sit in there and get along, and you can't say the stuff that needs to be said. I don't know how you can enact any change when you're not allowed to actually put forward an alternative. The alternative seems to get shut down.
Well, it's weirder than that because our mate, Mr. Whitworth, he put out a guide to free speech, which says, stop using codes of conduct to attack each other and have a bloody debate in the meeting. It's only when their ideas are debating that things actually get resolved. I mean, I've read his bloody document. Funny fact.
Oh, Anthony shows it religiously here now. It's a bit of a,
Page 9. I think it's page 9 that says don't use codes of conduct, actually engage in debate. I tried to tender that document in my court case last Friday to the NCAT member, and she refused to accept it.
Yeah. No, but if you look at the document,
it's got a great intent, but it misses the mark.
But if you look at the introduction page, page 4, it says this guideline has been issued under section 23A of the Act. Councils and council officials must take it into consideration when exercising their functions. This guideline is also to be considered by conduct reviewers when dealing with code of conduct matters that have been referred to them. Well,
yes,
I don't see how the member of the tribunal could then reject this document as not having any weight when it's clearly got section 23A of the Act supporting it.
I know. It's an appeal point. Don't worry. I've already identified 6 appeal points. So I'm considering appealing the refusal of the stay. This message keeps popping up.
I keep bringing it back because it's one that I wanted to go back to. So there's plenty as always. And then, of course, look, and I do, for those who watch regularly, you'll know that I do try to make sure everybody who comments something gets on there. The other little thing that I've worked out with this particular program, if your live streams go over 2 hours, it gets really, really hard for it to be cut up for all the reels and stuff. So we like to keep it under the 2 hours.
Sure.
And I know with Andrew here, we can always go ballistic for hours upon hours. We could probably be here till Tuesday next week if we really wanted to be. But this one here keeps popping up. Now, at some point, you might comment on the story you had up on your Facebook page about the Monero police officer attacking the Aboriginal woman from behind So she was pushed onto a post and injured. Now, I recall briefly seeing it, and I think at the time, I don't know what I was doing, but I spotted it and went, I'll get back to that, and I never did. Tell us what the hell went on there.
I can't, because I don't know any more about it than I saw it, I shared it, and I think I just commented Monero Police, because I'm under basic instruction to shut the fuck up on social media while I've got all these court matters running with the NCAT and what have you. And that actually ends tonight. So I'm back. I'm noisy. What I understand of it was that there was an incident that someone threw a rock at a car, broke a window. Police were involved. There was a confrontation. There was a separation, and that the woman that ended up getting pushed into the pole was basically losing her shit, I think, maybe at the car owner or something. And the policeman had previously warned them and separated them, and he then saw this fracas happening against the fence at the school. It's bizarre. He just walked up and shoved her. It's not even in the beginning of the manual for policing. And she fell into a steel pole and cut her head open, and I think she was passed out. And then he stands over her and he's trying to sort of roll her around as if to put her in handcuffs. She's fucking unconscious with her head cut open. And
it was definitely Monero Police, was it?
Monero Police, Bungendore.
Yeah, right.
Then he gets on the radio and says, yeah, Bungendore, whatever, need assistance. And he's standing over her as if to put, from memory, I think he reached down to put the handcuffs on or something. It's degrading, it's dehumanizing, and yep, she might have been the most irritating woman in the world. And she probably lost her shit for whatever reason, but it's not appropriate. And that policeman is lucky. He's lucky he didn't kill her. Because if she had have actually landed more on the temple, more directly into the post, she got a glancing blow rather than a full-on hit. It could have caved a skull in. It could have fragmented a brain with bone fragments. It's just sickening to watch that the cop was so uncaring, unprofessional, that he couldn't walk up and issue a direction to stop it.
They're the cops that give the good cops a really bad name.
They're the cops that make the good cops leave the force.
Yeah.
And I know this. That we had a reasonably good cop when I was spat on by the professor during the no referendum. And that cop recommended the professor be charged and recommended that the bloke that hit me in the park be charged. The superiors refused to charge. He left. He left. He quit New South Wales Police, and he was no longer the officer in charge. Went to Victoria. Yeah. Left.
I know a handful who had similar experiences during COVID, and that period, particularly down in VicPub.
If you want a quick roundup from me, happy to come back, keep chatting until December 14 when I refuse to provide my ID. The assault
election.
September 13th. So there's a very, very quick timeline. Nominations open tomorrow, close next Thursday. Pre-poll is the Saturday the 6th from memory, and then the election is the 13th. So very, very quick timeline. I'll put a couple of days down there into it. It's great. I can catch up with old school friends and what have you. I mean,
look, anyone in Oklahoma, if they want some serious representation and they want to make some real change in their area, well, get around you. Now, we've got a comment up.
It's not
a comment that says the system relies on your participation from not being shut down. Come on, man, wakey, hands on snake.
No, that's my mate Victoria. They don't want me to leave. They want everyone. I get people ringing me nearly every day saying, "God, man, when can you come back and do your videos and tell us what's going on? We don't know what's happening in the world." So, yes.
And you know, the problem is the system's working exactly how it's supposed to. System's not broken. The system is designed for all this shit. And then
it's accelerating. I
It's
think the public,
accelerating, 100 mile an hour. It's accelerating. That's what happens when you've got when you don't have an actual opposition in the country. And anybody who's sitting there, I know we do. I had an argument the other day with some lady crapping on about the LNP and whatever. When I told her that was a complete waste of time, she waffled on something to me about, well, at least I'm doing something. What have you ever done? And I'm like, I've run in quite a few elections to fight these arseholes. I've put my face on flyers. I don't know who you are, lady.
you wrangled the Libertarian Party, for Christ's sake. That's a job in itself.
Oh, fuck. It was, yes, it was and is. I mean, I'm obviously not directly involved anymore, but even I'll put it this way. I had a bit of a brief conversation with David Lionhelm today. I still speak to a lot of the guys. And then, of course, the other, I guess, big immediate news is the One Nation senator stepping down. If they don't offer that spot to Stuart Bonds,
I said Stewie would be the pick, absolutely.
He's the only guy in New South Wales with the profile, the history with One Nation, the principles to do that job. James Ashby the other night saying that he wasn't going to run, and Lee Hansen has said she's not going to run or put her hand up for it.
Yep.
I'm glad, because if Lee put her hand up for that position, that would immediately undermine her as a Nepo baby, as opposed to somebody who got there sort of on her own steam.
Well, that would have been the proper end of the Pauline Hanson party, I reckon.
I think so too. It would have just completely undermined everything they've built. I mean, if she gets herself elected in Queensland or in Tassie, where she's living, or whatever's going on, it makes perfect sense. Go for it, Lee. I'd use the stuff I've seen from you has been good, but if you turn around and parachute some idiot in to that spot who's not Stuart Bonds, nobody else has the runs on the board for that party. They've got rocks in their hands. And it would be the equivalent of the Nationals not supporting Matt Canavan for the leadership. When Canavan put his hand up and I thought there was half a sniff there, I went, I could almost support a national party led by Canavan. I mean, I don't think I could become a full-fledged member, but I reckon I could probably support that. And then they did the opposite, and then they just burned themselves to the ground again. And I went, waste of time. I had 2 minutes of thinking there was some hope in the space. If One Nation are foolish enough not to tap Stewie Bonds on the shoulder and put him in that position, they're dumb as a bag of hammers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of obvious. State-wise, Ruddock's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting on behalf of an opposition in the state parliament. He's talking about castle law doctrine, which should be discussed, relaxing gun laws, etc. Richard says Thailand's looking good.
I'm there, Richard. I've thought about it. Don't worry about that, mate.
Yeah. So look, I'll enjoy the short run up to have a bit of a play with Koma. I'll send a couple of strong messages. I am going to attack this whole notion that we need more women. I'm happy to be quoted that I'm in the Sydney Morning Herald saying I think there's too many women in our parliament. There's a woman just.
Hang on. Are you sure? Do you identify as a woman? Yeah. Can I confirm?
I do not. I am. There's a difference, I think.
Yeah. You think we should have more women in our parliament?
I said it first.
I stole my wife's line. It's about provoking discussion. It's one thing that I do. I know the councillors in my council, the majority of them hate me, but they all talk about me every time. They cannot avoid it. So provoke the discussion, a bit like a lot of what you do, Dean, and the same with you, Anthony. Provoke the discussion, provide the opportunity for change, and let's see if the people can wake up a little bit.
That's exactly right. I'm running for the next elections here for the seat of Cootamundra in the state elections in 2027. And
excellent.
And my sole reason for doing so is to bring to light the issues affecting the majority of councils in New South Wales. Now, you saw the ICAC turned up at City of Parramatta Council a month ago and took phones and stuff off senior staff, yet there's been no announcement from ICAC, no announcement from the council. Like, the ICAC are entitled to secrecy if they act secretly. But when you turn up in such a flagrant show of force and in such a statement, a public statement, and it's been widely reported in mainstream media, and still there's a cone of silence over this thing, then you've got to ask serious questions. And what on earth was that stunt in Adolf?
Well, do you want to hear a really uncomfortable fun fact about the ICAC?
Yeah, why not?
So the ICAC inspector, the boss of the ICAC, and remembering the federal government's ICAC was modelled on the New South Wales version. So the New South Wales ICAC, the federal inspector, was always a member of the judiciary. It was a requirement by law. And in 2022, the state government removed that requirement so that the chief inspector of the ICAC now just has to be a senior counsel or a King's counsel. So at the moment, we've got a senior counsel in charge of our ICAC who is not a member of the judiciary. Now, the judiciary are the separate power to the government, as it were, the bureaucracy. And it's exactly that for a reason. It goes back to beyond the Magna Carta, the principles of justice, Blackstone's commentaries on the laws of England, explain it in 4 volumes. Separation of powers, and there's a fucking reason for that. But not that we give it to the church either. We separate it from those muppets as well. It has to be its standalone thing with a strict, direct line to the king or the queen, the sovereign, to act in the interest of the people first and foremost and always. And our stupid parliament took that away. And who does a lawyer work for? They work for whoever pays their bill.
Yes.
So we have removed the judicial oversight from our ICAC. And so you wonder why they pull stunts like you've just seen at Parramatta, because they can.
Yeah.
It's a complete circus. Complete circus.
Thanks for that insight.
Mate, look, we're in the 5-minute wind down zone of the program. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you everybody for tuning in. It's always fun. It's a Thursday night when we bring in Mr. Thaler. It's always a good show. Yeah. Andrew, thank you for your time. Thank you for your heroism. Heroism?
Yeah.
I don't think it's heroism. I think it's stupidity. Let's be honest, because
masochism.
I've got a life that I'm not leading.
I'll tell you what it is. It's heroism because you put everything that you are and that you've earned and that you've built in your life on the line because you believe in what you believe in. You're standing for your family, your country, the people who are effectively being downtrodden, bullied, and harassed and intimidated. And your fight's, a very, very important fight. And there's going to be an awful lot of Australians, I think, over the next 3 years to 5 years, who are absolutely going to be shitting themselves when all these new laws come in. And they're going to be going, why didn't anyone do anything about it? And there's going to be a couple of queer lunatics like us who they're going to point to, perhaps if we haven't been erased from digital history and put in a gulag somewhere, who they may whisper about and go, oh, a couple of maniacs actually tried and we didn't listen. We called them kooks and serial pests.
Either that or we'll go the way of Ned Kelly and Dan Morgan.
Fuck, it's not off the table.
Yeah, killdozer. Do you want a really, really, really stupid story to finish the show?
Why not?
So a mate of mine lives in our council area, and there's a communal dog that lives on whichever bloody property it feels like living, and they all just sort of feed it when it turns up. And apparently it got a bit rambunctious with a neighbour's dog. And these are not big ones, they're little dogs. And the neighbour complained to the council. The council said, we'll take care of it. And they issued a fine to my friend and they declared his dog dangerous. Now, the ranger has never seen the dog. There's no evidence the dog exists. He doesn't own a fucking dog. And he's
got evidence of his microchipping program or registration papers.
The dog's never been touched. No, it's not even here. And my mate's been ordered to build a dangerous dog enclosure, which, if you read the development regulations, you have to lodge a DA to build any structure of that magnitude. And we've got one of the slowest DA processing times in the state.
For an imaginary dog. Fantastic.
It's just the most insane story. I feel so sorry for my mate. He's going to take the fine to court. I'm going to help him fight it. I think we're going to make the magistrate laugh, and ratepayers waste more money.
More money.
Such a shame.
Business as usual.
Well, thanks for that. That's
Righty.
really sad. It's a sad ending.
That's what I said. Look, everybody, if you do like the message, if you do like what we're trying to do, share it. If you're brave enough, like it, give it that, feed that algorithm, get that sort of thing out there. It's on the YouTube, it's on the book face. Share it around wherever you can. Stand strong and don't be afraid to reach out if you're feeling a little bit like we're in the right track, but you're not sure if you're quite capable of doing it alone. You're not. There's a whole bunch of us. It's not just the three. There are far
Dean,
more people.
August 31, turn up. There's going to be a march in Canberra, end of the bulk immigration. Stand up for your rights. Wave your blue and red flag. Remember, you're not alone. Fellowship. That's a key one.
Good.
And that'll do us, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Good night, choppers.
See ya.